What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Criterion Corner. This is the segment on my channel where I pick films from the Criterion collection and talk about them in great detail in the video. And today I'm really excited because I'm talking about one of my favorite filmmakers, Lynne Ramsay. And I had never seen this film in Lynne's catalog, and I'm really looking forward to talking about it because I know it's really well loved. It's earlier in her career. And the movie I'm going to be talking about today is Ratcatcher. Ratcatcher is directed by Lynne Ramsay. James Gillespie is 12 years old. The world he knows is changing. Haunted by a secret, he has become a stranger in his own family. He is drawn to the canal where he creates a world of his own. He finds an awkward tenderness with Margaret Ann, a vulnerable 14-year-old expressing need for love in all the wrong ways, and befriends Kenny, who possesses an unusual innocence in spite of all his harsh surroundings. So this movie takes place during the garbage strike that was happening in this area of Scotland at this time. So the cinematography for this film, it's really focused on these housing developments that these kids live in, and this area in general. There's just bags of trash lined all over the city streets and all over the place. In the beginning shot of the film, you're introduced to this character, Ryan, who he's with his parents. He ends up running out, playing with these kids, and he ends up running into our lead character, James. And the two of them are out at this canal, they're playing together, and Ryan ends up getting in the canal and sinking, essentially. James doesn't say anything, he ends up just running off, and Ryan's character ends up drowning. And so the entire film is James is sort of living with the repercussions of what happened, because he didn't go tell anyone, he didn't run after anyone to try to tell them that they were in danger, and the entire film is him sort of living with that, but also just trying to find his place in the world. He lives at home with his parents and his siblings, and he's got like a little sister who he lives with. The two of them are constantly butting heads. You can tell his dad is like clearly a struggling alcoholic who puts himself together for what looks like work, or going into try to find new housing for their family because they live in this housing development that is really dirty and gross and just awful living conditions for these people to be in, and they're trying to find a new place to live, while at the same time this kid is just trying to figure out his place in the world. And he ends up meeting this young girl, Margaret Ann, who is constantly being bullied and treated horribly by these other kids in the community, and you can tell that like they use her and abuse her in just the most awful of ways, and the two of them form this really unlikely bond, and that's where the movie sort of takes off. So this film is really different in that you do have that small through line narrative, but for the most part it's just this really beautiful character study about this young kid who is exposed to a really horrible tragedy really early on in his life, and how like the loss of innocence plays a really big part in it. You have the beginning that contrasts completely with the end, where you see James as this young kid who's just out playing and trying to live his life, to where at the end, towards the middle act and the end of the film, he's having to make decisions that are so much more out of the realm of being a young child. Even in this scene where he meets this young kid named Kenny, who is really just kind of optimistic and sweet and childlike in every way, and he loves animals, and these kids are bullying him, and they end up trying to kill one of his pets, and James has to be the one who's there to break it all up, to try to make it more normal and to try to get those kids off of his case. And it's like this 12-year-old is put in these situations to like resolve arguments even between his parents. It's like they're constantly fighting, and he's trying to just like navigate his way through the world after this horrendous tragedy, while there's this bigger thing going on in the country that really is just reflective of the family in general and what they're going through. And it was such a unique viewing experience, and it's one of those films that I feel like just has to be experienced from your perspective, because there's so many interesting moments that feel really dreamlike and ethereal. There's a scene where James just wants to get away from his family, and he ends up taking this bus all the way to the end of the bus line, and he finds these houses that are being built. And there's this one house in particular he goes into, and he's moving around it, and there's this really beautiful shot from inside the house out into this beautiful field of what looks like wheat. He's staring out in there, and contrasted with all the really dark, bleak colors of the entire film, it's really bright and vivid and beautiful, and like really the only glimmer of optimism through the entire film, because most of it is incredibly bleak, and the story of these characters, it's incredibly sad, and it feels like none of them can get a win. And I think that that's reflective of the country at that time period, especially for those garbage workers who are trying to fight to be fairly treated in their country, and how that negatively affects the citizens that live in the town at that time. And so that's a really interesting dichotomy in this film. And what I love about Lynne's entire catalog as a filmmaker is all of her films seem to have really large social commentaries on top of the regular narrative. And this film in particular focuses really heavily on those cultural commentaries, and I was really appreciative of that. I think this is a really incredible film, and I'm glad that it's in the Criterion collection. I'd love to see more of Lynne's work be put in the Criterion collection, because she is such an incredibly talented filmmaker, and I think if you haven't seen this movie yet, you 100% should check it out. So if you've seen Ratcatcher, did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was absolutely brilliant. It was truly incredible performances, amazing cinematography, just an absolutely fantastic experience. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.